We have been having a lot of winter weather, which means we've just been at home in the house and not really wanting to go out too much because it's that cold. And so I'm gonna take today and show you guys what I cook in a day. So a lot of the time, it's not even necessarily like a full meal that I'm cooking. It's just like little things here and there, like snack items or things to have on the side of another meal, or something like a sweet, because we like to have little sweets here and there, but made healthier. And so that kind of keeps everybody's spirits up, especially this time of year when it's like dark outside and cold and the kids can't run outside and the garden's not in full swing. Things just feel different during the winter. So I like to cook to kind of bring up our spirits and make a cozy, homey environment. So the first thing I'm going to get started today are some cabbage fritters. So you can have them just on the side of a meal, but you could also have them at breakfast like a hash brown or something like that. They're almost like a potato latke, so you could serve them with a little bit of sour cream, or if you have kids like I do, probably serve them with a little bit of ketchup, and they're delicious. So the first thing I'm gonna do is get started on these fritters, and I've got some cabbage and I've got a couple carrots here. Now to bind my cabbage fritters, I'm also gonna use a little bit of einkorn flour. This is just all-purpose, so you can either use that or just regular all-purpose flour. And then we're also gonna use some eggs. I love all the different colors. It's so satisfying to have good quality eggs in the house. It's such a gift. So I'm gonna use a little bit of eggs, a little bit of my einkorn flour, and we're gonna season it. We're gonna season it with a little bit of paprika, garlic, and of course, salt and pepper. So I'm gonna start out by cracking in 3 eggs. And I'll go ahead and beat these up. So for the cabbage, we want to grate it up, and so you can either do it by hand, just like slice it really thinly with a knife like I do with the cabbage slaw that I make, but I'm actually going to use a box grater today. I know you could probably also use a food processor with the shredding attachment. I actually have a food processor, but I don't know how to work the shredder attachment yet. I need to look into it and read the instruction manual. That might help. So I'm going to go ahead and do this by hand today, just with my really simple box grater though. So I like to start, and first I'll cut down and kind of cut around the core so that we get rid of that core, and then we can take each of these individual pieces and grate them on the box grater. Okay, the cabbage is in, so next I'll just grate up 2 carrots. I'm gonna cut the ends off. But I'm actually not gonna peel them. I like to leave the nutrients intact, so just give them a good rinse and then we can just grate them together like this. Next, I'm just gonna add in about 1 stalk of these green onions. I'm just gonna cut the end off and cut the tips off. And I'm gonna use both the green and the white. You just wanna thinly slice these so there's not huge chunks in the cabbage and carrots. There we Okay, so that's good. Now I'm gonna add some salt and pepper. And I'm gonna add about half a teaspoon of a sweet paprika. You could also use smoked if you wanted a more smoky flavor. That would probably be really good in this actually. A little paprika. Now to kind of bind this all together with the eggs, I'm gonna use about 4 to 5 tablespoons of my all-purpose einkorn flour. Now, if you're gluten-free, you could also probably substitute this for a gluten-free flour. I think it would do pretty much the same thing. You could even probably try almond flour, but I'm not sure if it'll hold up quite as well, so we'll have to see about that. But I'm gonna go ahead and use about 5 tablespoons of my einkorn. You could definitely use your hands to get in there and kind of work that flour into the cabbage, but I think I'm gonna go in with some tongs and kind of toss it all together, get everything mixed. The salt will bring out a little bit of liquid from the cabbage, but that's okay because it's gonna combine with that flour that I'm adding in, and it kind of makes like a slurry to hold it together into a little patty. You just gotta make sure you kind of lift it up and turn it, that way we can get all down into that egg that's in the bottom and it can combine with the flour. There we go, you can see the yellow from the egg now. So I'm just gonna keep twisting this together and mixing in all that flour. And if for some reason it looks a little too wet, I'll just add in a little extra flour, no big deal. But look how beautiful that is. I love all these colors, all those veggies. It's kind of like a veggie patty, so really nice and healthy. Let's see if it kind of holds together. I think that's gonna be pretty good. I don't think it's too wet. Okay, so now that my mixture is nice and mixed together, I'm gonna preheat my cast iron griddle over about medium-low heat, and we're gonna turn these into little patties and fry them up. I give my hands a quick rinse and then I'm gonna start flipping these over.
So do you add a little butter down? That much?
Yeah, just like a little palmful. That's good. Yeah, press it together, just lightly smush it.
Okay.
I'm gonna add a little bit more oil to our pan. Just avocado oil.
Okay.
And then pop it right on the pan. There. And then, yep, give it a smush. Just be careful not to burn yourself. That's good. Yep. Perfect. Yeah, they have carrots, cabbage, green onions.
Green onion.
These are so good. They just finished frying up and they remind me of an egg roll or kind of like a hash brown but veggie, so it's like a veggie patty. I love these. These are great to have on the side with dinner or as a quick lunch even, on the side of eggs for breakfast. This is such a good nutrient dense little side addition to any meal, and they're super easy to make, but they're delicious. Anytime it's cold outside, I love baking, but I do try to bake with a little bit healthier ingredients. So today I'm going to try making some peanut butter chocolate chip einkorn cookies. And so I'm making them using ancient einkorn flour, so it makes them a little bit healthier. And then instead of just processed sugar, I'm going to use some coconut sugar. So they're a little bit healthier, but they're still really rich and satisfying, and my kids even love them. The first thing I'm getting in my bowl is half a cup of chunky natural peanut butter. And I like to use the peanut butter that doesn't have salt added or sugar added. It's just plain peanut butter. You want the only ingredient to be peanuts. And then after that, I'm going to add in half a cup of salted room temperature butter. And I like to make sure it's room temperature. That way it combines in really well with the peanut butter. And we're also going to want to add in coconut sugar to sweeten everything up. So if you can't find coconut sugar, you can use just organic brown sugar. But whenever I'm using coconut sugar, I also like to add in just a little bit of molasses, and that helps to give it that brown sugar taste and consistency. So it makes the sugar kind of stick together better. So that's one of my favorite little baking tricks. So I'm just going to blend this together really well and make sure everything is nicely mixed in. Once that's nice and creamed together, then I'll just crack in 1 egg, and then I'll mix that into until it's nice and incorporated. And it's going to feel like a little bit thick and hard to mix together, but that's completely normal. Then I'm just going to add in a little splash of vanilla. This is my homemade vanilla, which I need to make more of desperately. And then I'm adding in about 1 1/4 cups of just all-purpose einkorn flour. So if you don't have einkorn, you can definitely substitute it with just regular all-purpose flour. That's totally fine, but I do like that it's healthier and gives it a little bit more of a buttery flavor. Then I'll add in baking powder, baking soda, an extra pinch of salt just to really bring out the flavor, and then I'm also going to stir in some dark chocolate chips. I like to take my parchment paper and crumble it up a little bit in my hands before I lay it in the baking sheet, because I find it just lays down a little bit better. So I don't know if you guys do that, but I like to do it. It's just really practical. It makes it lay a little bit flatter, and it doesn't slide around as much either. So after that, I'm just going to roll these into balls. I do maybe about 2-inch, 1.5-inch size balls. And anytime I'm using chocolate chips, I love to just top whatever it is that I use them in with just a few extra ones, and it just gives it that beautiful bakery style look. So my daughter wanted to do that on these cookies, so lots of chocolate chips. Now the trick to getting a nice flat and chewy cookie and a little bit crisp is when they come out of the oven, I like to tap them on the counter, and that helps them kind of settle down. And I did some that didn't have chocolate chips on top too, and for those I just smashed them with my spatula, and it works the same. So depending on how you top your cookies, you can do it one way or the other, and they turned out so fantastic. You do want to let them cool on the baking sheet and then put them on a cooling rack. That way they can kind of set up, because that coconut sugar has slightly different texture than regular brown sugar. But oh, these are so delicious. I hope you guys try these. The next thing I'm making is a smoky sausage and potato soup. So this is so delicious for dinner. It's super hearty, so it's like your meat and potato dinner, but turn it into a soup, feed your entire family, and it's super easy to make all in one pot. Usually buy like a nice thick cut, no sugar added bacon, and I'll cut that up with my kitchen scissors. And we're gonna get that going in our soup pot along with 1 onion that I'm gonna dice up. Either a yellow onion or a sweet onion, any will work. So I'm gonna use a yellow onion today. And I'm gonna get this in my soup pot over medium heat, and we're gonna let this start cooking down and rendering that bacon fat, because that's gonna add tons of flavor and healthy fats in there because we're using good quality bacon. It's gonna really start to build that flavor in the soup, and all the little brown bits are gonna get stuck on the bottom and just make this soup fantastic. We're gonna slice up some of my favorite kielbasa style sausages to buy from the store, and they're a grass-fed, grass-finished, organic style, just beef sausage. So it's a really good quality beef. They also make other ones, which you can probably find anywhere. I know Costco even used to sell them, so maybe you can find them in bulk. I just found these at Publix. A lot of my grocery stores around me have them, and I always have them either in my fridge or in my freezer. So I'm just gonna thinly slice these. I like to make them on the thinner side, that way they're really easy to bite, especially when you're getting other things on the spoon like potato and kale. You wanna make sure that you can get everything in one bite. So I don't wanna cut them too big or it's gonna be hard to eat it. And then we're gonna saute that down in that rendered bacon fat with the bacon and the onion, and that's gonna be our meaty base to this delicious soup. And while that's happening, I'm gonna chop up some gold potatoes. So I'm using some organic gold potatoes. Potatoes are on the Dirty Dozen, so if you can buy these organic, that's great. But if you can't, definitely just buy regular and give them a scrub down with a little vinegar in your sink and you'll be good to go. But I'm gonna go ahead and use gold today, and I'm just gonna cut them in half once, and then I'll cut them into big chunks. I like to leave these potatoes in the soup a little bit chunkier and heartier. It is a little bit of a heartier soup. So we've got our thick pieces of sausage that we're gonna use, and then we have our chunky potatoes. So it's a really hearty, chunky style soup. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut up those potatoes, and I'm gonna de-stem my kale. Today, I'm just using what I got from the grocery store, which is curly kale, and that's totally fine in this soup. It works great. So I'm gonna go ahead and rip that off the stalk and give that just a rough chop. I like to leave it a little bit heartier so it doesn't get lost in the soup, and you can really tell when you're taking a nice little bite of greens. So after all of that has rendered down, I'm gonna go ahead and add in those golden potatoes along with about 4 cups of chicken broth, which you can either make homemade yourself. I have a recipe on my website, or you could just use a good carton of your favorite chicken broth. And then to make this soup even smokier and more flavorful, I'm gonna use a little smoked paprika. And this is gonna add a lot of depth, a lot of smoke, and it just gives like a beautiful, rich red color to this soup. And it kind of takes it up a notch from your typical sausage and potato soup. Then I just like to pop my lid on and I'll let that simmer for about 15 minutes until those potatoes are nice and tender. Then I'll add in the kale. So my soup has been simmering on the stove and you can smell the smokiness in the air. It smells so good. So I went ahead and pulled a potato out, and then if I poke it, it's nice and tender. So I know the soup is come together, it's good. And so I'm gonna go ahead and add in all of this beautiful kale. And then to finish off the soup, I like to add a little bit of organic cream. I'm just gonna use about half a cup of my heavy cream, and you could do more or less. It just kind of depends on how creamy you want your soup to be. That should be the perfect amount for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and stir that together, and you can see how just beautiful and rich this soup is. Super filling, but it's just full of a lot of whole foods and doesn't take forever to make either. It's just a few ingredients, but they're the right ingredients, and it makes it so delicious and flavorful. It also reheats amazing, so if you want to make a big batch of it and then eat it the next few days, that is also a great idea. And anytime I'm making a soup that has potatoes or beans or any sort of starch in it, except for rice, I like to take my wooden spoon, or you could use a potato masher, and just kind of give some of those potatoes a little smush, because that helps thicken the soup and just give it that perfect consistency and kind of thicken it without adding flour or any other thickeners. So that's just my little trick. Now, I love serving the soup just on its own, but we could also serve it with a piece of our sourdough bread, like the crusty bread. We love that. Or just top it with a little bit of Parmesan or sharp white cheddar. And it is just the most comforting, cozy winter, late winter soup. It's amazing. And on these cold winter days when we really want something that's gonna warm us up, this is one of my favorite satisfying meals that I make. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you're new to my channel, make sure you check out the other videos here on my channel, and you can find today's recipes and more over at healthyelizabeth.com.